Well, good day, viewers. Today we have an 03 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD. It has the 6.6 Duramax. I imagine it's the LB7 variant. And I did injectors in this thing a few months ago. Customer supplied aftermarket injectors. And now it's here for a bunch of repairs, brake lines and emergency brake cables and such. But before yesterday morning, it started an issue where it was going into limp mode. It's setting multiple injector codes and an injector driver fault code, so it may be a wiring harness issue, and maybe one of the new injectors has failed. So first and foremost, we're going to scan it. I managed to get it started last night by clearing the fault codes and boosting it, and it will run in normal mode for about 5 seconds and then go into limp mode. At least it did that last night. So it's in the shop, it's thawed out. Yeah, we're gonna put the scan tool on it and see what codes it's got to offer. Okay, so this vehicle doesn't support automatic ID with this snap-on scan tool, although the vehicle does. It's the scanner that doesn't support it. It has 224,469 kilometers on it. I don't remember what it had on it when I did the injectors. Let's see. I didn't record the mileage. Well, regardless, let's go into engine, automatic transmission, codes menu, display codes, all powertrain codes. Cylinder 2, 3, 5, and 8, P0700, generic transmission code. 2149, injection position voltage control circuit group 2. And lost communication with fuel injection control module. So maybe we have a network wiring problem, but 2, 3, 5, and 8 are all on the same group from what I understand, 2149. So let's have a look at the troublemaker chart. So here's the first case that I come across on Identifix. Seems to be identical, 2, 3, 5, and 8, and 2149. We're going to check the wiring harness and check the FICM connections. We're going to disconnect the connector at the FICM and measure some resistance of the injectors for injectors 2, 3, 5, and 8, and see if any of them are outside of range. I think the spec is 0.3 to 0.8, but I'll double check that. So here's a TSB. It says if the problem is intermittent, says complete the diagnostics as per the chart, but it says check for loose or corroded wire connections at the injector. Engine valve cover must be removed to perform this check. So like I said, we're going to pull up a wiring diagram and find out which pins are involved with cylinders 2, 3, 5, and 8. I think that's what it was. So here's my plan. We're going to locate connector 2 at the FICM, fuel injection control module on the right side of the engine. At connector 2, pin 118 is the common power supply for that group of injectors. We're going to put an ohm meter between pin 118 and 115, which is cylinder 3. 121, which is cylinder 2, 120, which is cylinder 8, and 116, which is cylinder 5. So I'm going to get a connector view of connector 2 at the fuel injection control module. So I've removed the air induction pipe from this reusable air filter, disconnected the mass airflow sensor. This is connector 2, it's the smaller of the two, and this is connector 1 down here. So we have to pull this connector off. I don't want to disturb too much of the wiring harness as it is right now. Anyways, I'll pull this off and disconnect this connector. And I've identified the common power supply is 118, and these are the 4 injector drive circuits controlled on the ground side. So we'll get set up here. So you have to disconnect both of them to get connector 2 off because the harness goes over top of it here. So these are the 5 pins in question here. This middle one is the common power, and these are the 4 drive circuits. You want to use the appropriate size terminal, which I have here, and check pin drag, which I did already, and it seems fine. You want to make sure that when you put your ohm meter in the circuit, or you zero the ohm meter, that it actually zeros, and it goes to 2 decimal places on this meter. So I'm going to set the meter up, and I'm going to connect one circuit in this pin here in the center, which is 118, which is a common feed, and then measure the 4 resistances. Okay, so I'm going to connect the meter. Make sure this is recording. Yes, it is. Pin 118 and 150. And we have 0.19. I think that's below spec. I think the spec is 0.3. Let's try this one. 0.24. .24. Oh, that's a problem. 25. Now these are Bosch injectors, from what I understand. So I'm on pin 121, and I'm reading, as you can see, 25.8 ohms. Whereas if I go to one of the other injectors, and the engine is at room temperature, it's 0.24. So what cylinder does this go to? That one there. 25.9 ohms. That goes to 121. 121 is injector number 2, which unfortunately, oh, that's on the driver's side. That's the driver's side front one. Because it's 2468 down the driver's side and 1357 down the passenger side. So while I'm watching that, I'm going to wiggle the wiring harness over there and see if it changes. This is why I didn't want to disturb anything. Wiggling the wiring harness to one of the injectors here. Can't really get at the other one. I'm going to get a light. So it's sitting at 25.9 or 26 ohms, and that is the connector underneath here. I've got the connectors on the valve cover disconnected, but the main connector to this is underneath this coolant pipe, and I can't, there's not enough wiring harness to remove it, so I'm gonna have to remove this coolant pipe, unfortunately. Damn. We need to disconnect it at this connector and check the resistance of the actual injector, and we may end up pulling this valve cover off. So I did manage to get that connector out, and I'm checking continuity of the wire. So this first wire closest to me here is the control wire for injector number 2, and between that pin and pin, let's see, which pin was it? 121 at the FICM, I have a total of 0.0 ohms resistance. And between pin 118 so I got it on pin 118 now, and this pin, second pin in, that's the power supply wire. I got 0 ohms resistance. So now we're going to check across these 2 outer pins. So I'm going to get set up for that. So I'm on the 2 pins closest to the front of the truck, which is the control wire and the power wire for injector number 2, going into the valve cover, and it reads 25.8 ohms. Let's move it to the other 2 just for comparison purposes. which would be injector number 4, which is on the other bank, and that reads 0.19. So there's a problem with either this jumper wiring harness going into the valve cover, or a problem with the number 2 injector, unfortunately. Oh boy, he's going to be happy. So there's the left side valve cover off, all the necessary paraphernalia. There's number 2 injector, and the wires are tight on the injector. So we're going to check the resistance across the injector in case it is a problem with this jumper harness. When you're taking this apart, blow everything off as best you can. I spray penetrating fluid on the line nuts and blow them out as best you can, and cap every line nut as you take it off. Cap the valve cover, grommet until you get the valve cover off, and then use a shop vac to suck anything that might have fallen from the line into the injector. Don't use compressed air to blow it out, or you'll force it into the injector. If you're changing the injectors, it's kind of irrelevant, but we're only changing one injector if we're changing any here. So I've got the ohmmeter connected across number 2 injector terminals, and we get 25.94. I think we had 25.96 before, but the meter zeroes at 0.02 now. So it needs an injector, unfortunately. Should be under warranty because these things aren't very old. When I did this last time, he bought all new lines, but I had to reuse number 6 injector line because the one that was supplied was bent and I couldn't get it to start. So I reused number 6 injector line of his original, and we sent it back. So I don't know if they can supply us with a number 6 injector line or not, but that's beside the point. It needs a new injector. So the customer's obtained a brand new box fuel injector from a local supplier because he bought the original injectors online, and it's going to take some time to get another injector under warranty, if he's even able to. So we're going to go ahead and put this new injector in number 2 and reassemble the engine. So there's a new injector installed. Torque on the hold down bolt is 37 foot-pounds, and the return line fitting are 12 foot-pounds, including the one at the back of the cylinder head there. Put new banjo gaskets on there. Clean the gasket surface off, and I'm reusing the lower valve cover gasket because it's was just put in a few months ago, but it's actually swollen a little bit, so I had to contact cement it back in place so that it doesn't fall off when I'm putting it in. I used spray contact adhesive just to hold it into place. Hopefully that's going to work. So there it is, back together and running. Just got to top up the cooling system. I think we got some glow plugs that aren't working, so we're going to check the glow plugs. The line current draw is only 50 amps, so I'm thinking probably only a couple of glow plugs are working. So I did a cylinder balance test and everything seems to be normal. 675 to 682. Balance rates. No, it's not in here.